Can everyone hear me okay? So the one question I want to answer that was answered in the last presentation, I want to answer again, is that whatever happens, whatever we learn about, there will be several community meetings, just like this one. They'll be all over, this is probably a great place to get together. We will publicize them. Everyone will be able to come and talk. This is a community decision. So that just so everyone understands, this is just, at the beginning that the Heritage Alliance is starting to research. So I would strongly recommend whatever opinion you have, or even if you have no opinion, get in touch with the Heritage Alliance and get involved. So there you go, just to wrap it up with a bow. So I've got a couple hats on tonight. Number one, I am Lisa Diaz Nash of the Baywood Neighborhood Association, and thank you all so much for being here. And thank you to all of our fellow board members and the library staff and everyone who helped us put this together. We had no idea whether 10 people would show up because it's been 3 years. So the fact that you are here tonight is so wonderful. We are so grateful, and I hope you've gotten a chance to see some friends. And we hope that we can have more of these. And we're going to start having our coffee socials again in April. So the first Saturday of every month, we'll have a social somewhere, either the Bay Tree Park or somewhere else. Come on by, just say hello. That's what we're all about, is to build community. My other hat, thanks to hopefully many of you in this room, is I was elected to be your district representative in November. So thank you all very much. It was a big change for San Mateo, just to remind everyone, because we were in the weeds, but maybe you had a life to live, so you weren't as much in the weeds. We used to be an at-large city, so you would vote for 5 city council members, and they would make decisions on behalf of all of San Mateo and represent all of San Mateo. The decision was made that we should change to district elections. And what that means is San Mateo is now divided into 5 different districts. And each district elects its own representative. So we still have 5 members on the council, but there are 5 of us, and each one of us ultimately will represent one district. We did District 1, 3, and 5 in November. We will do Districts 2 and 4 in 2024, because we don't want to have everybody turning on and turning off at the same time. So what that means is that if we're doing our jobs rightly or correctly, we have a better understanding of what your issues are, because we live in the district that we represent. We talk to people. We walk up and down the streets. So please, I've left my business cards out there. I send out Baywood bulletins every month. Please come and talk to me. Please tell me what you're interested in. Please tell me what you love about San Mateo or Baywood. Please tell me what you hate about San Mateo or Baywood. That's what I need to know in order to be able to represent all of you. But once we get on the council, we are all representing the entire city. So as City Manager Corbett just told us about, we had torrential flooding at the end of the year. That maybe the majority of it hit certain districts of San Mateo harder than others, but it impacts all of us. All our water flows, most of our water flows into the lagoon. So we are connected. What we do with our tax structure, what we do with our open space, what we do with housing, what we do with traffic, what we do with everything. We are a city, and we make decisions on behalf of the entire city. But I make sure that the voice of District 1 is represented. And just to give you a rough understanding, we're essentially the northwest corner or portion of the city. So we are essentially west of El Camino, south of Burlingame, and we go to just over 92. We go to 22nd Avenue. And then we also have San Mateo Heights, which is a little bit opposite San Mateo Park, and we also have Hayward Park. And the reason why it's not just a clean split is because we wanted to divide the city into 5 equal districts. So we all have about 21,000 people. You times that by 5, that gets to 5,000 people, which is how many people are in San Mateo. So every 10 years, as the census happens, we will redistrict. So you think about congressional districts or any, that happens every 10 years. We will start doing that on a local basis as well. So just, that's your primer refresher on districts. And the idea is to give more people voice. So I encourage everyone to come to these meetings, go to city council, speak in public comment, send in your emails. It is really what helps us understand what to do. So if you could go on to the next slide. So we were inaugurated or were put into office in the beginning of December, took a couple weeks off for the holidays, and then came back in with gusto with the floods. So we meet every other Monday in council chambers down at City Hall, except when there's a holiday, then it's a Tuesday. But we really try and work, and city staff, so everyone understands we are a city manager form of government. So I can represent all of you, but the city manager, that gentleman over there, Drew Corbett, at least until the end of June, he is the one that makes the city work. He is the one that leads all of our amazing staff, whether it's public works or parks and rec or finance or community development. They all are an incredible group of people. And every time you see one of them, you should say thank you, because of that, we are working. Now, there are problems. People get frustrated, no question, but we are an incredibly well-run city. So that is sort of how we work. But since this latest city council has come into effect, we've been working very hard. First off, probably our number 1, 2, and 3 priority has been dealing with the aftermath of the floods, because it really affected everyone. Certainly Sunny Brae, the Central Part, over in the lagoon, the Shoreview, but it also, Arroyo Court. Some of you, I know Carol Gillette took an incredible photo from her apartment that showed the water almost up to the top of cars parked up the street. So there was flooding here. Up in San Mateo Park, which is part of District 1, Cherry Creek flooded over. So there was flooding all over the city. And so I would really encourage you, as the staff comes back with all the information Drew told you they were going to, take a look. Sit in on either on Zoom. City Hall Zoom works a whole lot better than tonight's. I apologize. But sit in on Zoom, come to the meetings, listen to what the plans are. Because effectively, we are running on a city of 105,000 people with the infrastructure of a city 100 years old. And that is not going to work. And so I'm expecting them to come back and say, here's our plan for improving it, and it's going to involve taking a vote, something to the ballot for all the voters in San Mateo to approve or disapprove of an additional fee. So just FYI, you can have any opinion you want to about it, but that's what's sort of happening, and we really need to redo our infrastructure. So the number 2 thing we did as a result, and will continue to do, is update our emergency preparedness plans. If you think about your city council, we are about the basics. We are about making sure the public is safe. We are about making sure that there aren't too many potholes. There always will be potholes, but not too many. We are all about making sure that we do everything we can to make our community as safe, happy, and open and welcoming as possible. Part of that is emergency preparedness. And City Manager Corbett talked about the fact that we discovered a huge gaping hole in our emergency preparedness plan, because there was no, what do we do if Crystal Springs Reservoir overflows? We knew what we would do if it fell apart, but it's not going to fall apart. But what happens? So City Manager Corbett and his team are looking at every aspect of our emergency preparedness. I would also encourage all of you, there is something that is put on by the city called CERT training, which is all about emergency response and preparedness that individuals can take, and it's offered a couple times a year. I totally recommend that you sign up for it, for your family, for your friends. We have that little thing known as an earthquake all over the state, and God forbid it won't happen for a while, but it could. I don't have the dates of the CERT. I don't know the next earthquake, but I will get the information of the CERT training. Yes, the CERT training. Yes, I will do that. And Kayan, if you can make a note that any of these requests, so we make sure to get it out in a response to everyone. But thank you very much for that question. But that's the kind of thing the city offers that we all have to take responsibility for. So that's another huge plan or responsibility of ours, to really work with all of you. The next thing we're working on is something called our general plan. And that happens every 20 years. We have to update, it's basically our strategic plan. What do we want to be as a city for the next 20 years? What do we want our city to look like? What do we want business to be like? What do we want housing to be like? How do we want to deal with traffic? How do we want to deal with climate change? All of this is incredibly important. So as the city starts up again and has more outreach, I would encourage you all to get involved, because that is going to be our plan that drives what we do for the next 20 years. Really, really important. Continue to implement our climate action plan and improve our pedestrian and bicycle safety plans. And we all know we have to do a lot more as more people are in this city, more people are walking, of everything, as people say, from 8 to 80. We want our city to be safe for everyone. So that means really looking at what's going on with our intersections. What are we doing about bike lanes? What are we doing about people and offering them transportation around the city so it's safer? And then what are we doing about climate change? It is very real. What are we, over on the east side of the city, there is sea level rise, big time. San Mateo County is the most vulnerable county on the bay because it is so big. And we have Gina Pappen from Millbrae, from our city council to the north. Say hello, Gina, who is dealing with all sorts of things. And Gina has been involved in a lot of these things, so ask her what is going on across the county as well. And then increasing affordable housing. I know one of the things I ran on was, let's not just increase housing, let's increase affordable housing. That is a difficult thing to do because the underlying cost of our land is so expensive. But there are a lot of options that usually involve 10 to 12 different financing sources. So it is not an easy thing to do. But when you go downtown, there's a development going up called Kiku Crossing, which is going to open up, Drew?
Spring of 24.
24, okay. Whenever there's a date, I always ask the city manager. But that is 100% affordable. That is a really exciting thing to do. It's downtown, and it's over by the railroad tracks on 4th, yeah.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I recently read an article, I can't remember which one of the newspapers online, because I get so much. But it was talking about the population loss in the Bay Area. And that San Mateo County was one of the 2 counties that had the most population loss. So if we had that population loss, I understand that things are not affordable, but it would lead you to believe, okay, there were that many people who lived here before in our county, now there are 100,000 or 50,000, whatever it is, less. So yes, we need to make things more affordable, but we need a lot more housing if we have fewer people. I don't understand how the math goes.
Sure, I mean, part of it is what kind of housing do you build? And yes, we do need more affordable housing. We have, I believe.
No, I agree with that, but if we have less people now than we had before, do we need to build more housing?
We need to build more affordable housing, because if someone who is a teacher, you know, right, but they're not going to be able to rent or buy some of the housing that might be available. So there is definitely a question about when you get to what they call market rate housing and what has to happen with that. And that's real debate, and that's where getting involved in the general plan is really important. But where I'm focused on is what opportunities do we have for our teachers, for our police officers, for people who work in our city. So yes, there is, and then there's also the question of how many people are going to go back to the office and how many people are going to stay remote. I mean, we are in a huge different change, and so we have to keep a lot of our options open. But it's a very valid question. So that's why we have to focus on what can we do for affordable.
in that same vein, I know I read an article where San Francisco is considering converting some of their office space and using some of that for affordable housing. Are you guys kind of in a wait and see mode right now, seeing how that all shapes up and then maybe doing
Absolutely.
something similar?
I would, if that were to happen,
Yeah.
boy, I would be all over it so fast it wouldn't be funny.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at what kind of office building it is. So if it's a life sciences building, probably not convertible, but a lot of the older infill commercial, there might be an opportunity. And the other thing I would encourage all of you to do, Hillsdale Mall, Hillsdale Shopping Center, is going through a huge reimagine process. They know that the shopping center as we know it is dying very quickly. There's this thing called online shopping that's taken care of it, and we're all part of it. But they're an incredibly important member of our community. They want to stay here, we want them to stay here. So they're inviting the public to come and talk about help us figure out how to redo this so that there's commercial, there's residential, there's retail. So down at Hillsdale, in a shop right near Nordstrom's, there's a pop-up store. You can go in and see what's going on, give your opinion. Get on the email list, get involved. Those kinds of opportunities will have a lot of affordable housing in them. But we want it to be in a way that people can walk to things and do all that. So this question will never be answered. Stay involved, come talk to me. And finally, oh, you moved on. Did we get, there was a, right, yeah, what's on the prior page? Right, just to make sure, something you just need to know, as I mentioned, City Manager Corbett is retiring at the end of June. And number one, I think everyone owes him a great round of applause for his years of service. And just because he's retiring doesn't mean we're not going to keep calling, so he knows that. But we're starting a search process, and we'll keep you involved in that, because that's probably one of the most important things this city council will do, is select the next city manager. So stay tuned on that. So just wanted, and then we talked about all these other things. The last thing, which is probably after housing, traffic, the number one thing I heard from people when I was knocking on doors was when I contact the city, I get an email or somebody says, thank you very much, and then I never hear anything back. What's going on? So I have to call a lot. And I know I'm using city resources if I call 5 times. Is there some way to help? Well, council just had what we called our blue sky strategic planning session, which is essentially just saying, what are our priorities for the next fiscal year? And one thing that every one of the council members agreed should be a priority is evaluating the system, a self-service system, so all the residents and businesses, when you have an issue or a question, you can put it in online, and then you can track it online, and you can see where it is and what's going on. Now that's very high level requirements. That's where we say to city staff, here's the desire and here's the need. You figure out how to do it. But it should be integrated across all departments, and we could get very big in our imagination, but the idea is to make our government more transparent, more accountable, more open, more responsive, and also to help our city staff so they aren't having to answer the same question 15 times from 15 different people. So they can understand where city people want. So there we go. So I think that is the end of my questions. Yes?
Has there been any thought or applying from the federal government for funds for flood control or whatever? There's an infrastructure act that has $1 trillion.
Yes, sir.
Have you applied?
Yes, sir. And afterwards I can speak to City Manager Carter, but yes, the IRA funds are being looked at. There are reconstruction funds, there are state funds, all sorts of things that are being evaluated.
So we have about 8 minutes left before the library closes. So Drew, if you want to come up and anyone wants to ask Lisa or Drew or any of those questions.
Train electrification status, are there any more grade separations?
Okay, City Manager's coming right on in. He's the right person to ask. The question was about the status of Caltrain electrification. what's the status of the various grade steps?
Yeah, so electrification, at the last I got was that the electrified trains would be running in 2024. I've not heard anything different. That's been delayed several times, but I'm hoping that those trains will be running in 2024. With respect to grade separations, we put in an application. There's, again, mentioned here, a lot of federal funding available for various infrastructure projects. We put in an application for federal funding to do the first design phase of grade separating the entire downtown. We estimate that would be several $billion to do. We put in a $6 million grant application. We were not successful. We're going to apply again to that particular grant, but we've also got another pending grant application in with a different area of the federal government. So we'll keep applying for grants. The 25th Avenue grade separation project was over 20 years in the making from the time it was thought of to the time those grade separations actually opened up. It takes a long time, it takes a lot of work to cobble that money together. So this is step one. At the end of the day, Caltrans has a very ambitious plan for running its electrified trains and putting greater capacity on the corridor. They're not going to be able to do that unless they're grade separations, because the arms would be downtown 30 to 45 minutes an hour during peak times. And this is, it's a San Mateo problem, it's a San Mateo County problem. We have the most grade separations along the corridor, and it's something we have to address. So we think we're a good candidate for grant funding, and hopefully we'll be successful with that first step underway.
Hey, where did Lisa go? Yes.
I had read that the next phase, that a study was going to be done to determine the best way for trains to actually get through San Mateo, and I was sort of excited. I know it's expensive, but that one of the options being considered or evaluated was tunneling through downtown. I thought that there was some additional analysis that was being done.
No, that would be part of sort of the very first, that's what we were trying to get money for. We think that endeavor would cost about $8 million to do just the initial feasibility analysis, and it would include, do we go up, do we go down, do we grade separate the different roads? They're all very expensive propositions.
Drew, why are you retiring when you're only 36 years old?
I'm not 36 years old. I appreciate that though. So I'm eligible. Just leave it at that.
Well, you know what? Why don't we have one more thing to do that's very important. And our master of fun and festivities is coming up here right now. Because we promised you all.
Everybody have the little red tickets there.
That's right, here we go.
Where's your ticket?
You might want to break that out right now because it's time to give away a case of wine. Drew, get over here, buddy. You're doing the honors. You're about to retire. Let's pull a nice ticket here. You ready? I want you to pull. Everybody ready? Case of wine coming your way to a lucky winner. And the numbers are
267-6483.
Hey, we got a winner! I have full faith that you're telling the truth, sir. Congratulations, your wine is in my car. I will give it to you after the meeting. All right, very good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks for doing that.
Send the questions that you can.
It's okay.